Bibles with me this afternoon and turn over to the book of Genesis. Book of Genesis, chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1. Well, let's go ahead and let's begin reading in verse 1. We'll start at the beginning. In the beginning, God, and that's perhaps about my favorite scripture in the Bible. You know, you look at it, and in the beginning, God. Was from the beginning. And I'd love to give a lesson just on that right there. Created the heaven and the earth without form and void, and the darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Now, look over to verse 6. And God said, let there be firmament in the midst of the waters, divide the water, let it divide the waters from the waters. Drop down to verse 9. And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land," and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed it is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. Now go over to verse 14. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs. Let them be for the lights, let them be for the lights in the firmament for the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. Drop down to verse 20. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may live above the earth and in the open in the open firmament of heaven." Verse 24. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and the beast of the earth after his kind." And it was so. Verse 26. And God said, "Let us make man in our own image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." Through all these scriptures, I know we jumped through a lot, but did you notice what you read the most? What it kept repeating, and what it said? It said, "And God said." God said. I want us to look this morning just how powerful just the voice of God is. The voice of God and how powerful it is. He just speaks something and it happens. He wants something, he just says it and it appears. We have man that says, "Look what I've created in this test tube." Well, they took a little bit of what God made here and a little bit of what God made here. They didn't create nothing. God created something out of nothing just by his voice. There was nothing there. And he said, "Let there be." And there was. But I want us to look at this morning at the voice of God and how we react to it. How we react to the voice of God. Look over in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 31. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it doesn't say it was kind of good. It doesn't say it was all right. It doesn't even say it was good. It says it was very good. God said it. You know, he might tell you something this morning. And when we see it, when we hear him say it, when we feel that he's telling us this, man, that just doesn't look that the safe way for me. It doesn't look like I can do it. But I tell you this morning, if God says it, it is the best way. So many times that I'll feel the Lord telling me to do something, or I know I should do, and my feeble mind cannot wrap around what God has in store, what God has already planned out, what God has already seen me going through. He's already seen me in the present state, into the future going through it, and the ending of it. He's already seen it all. But yet I still won't listen. Even when we don't think it's a good idea, you still should listen to the Lord, to the voice of God, what He has to say, what He commands you to do. You know, you can look throughout the Bible, and the Lord is picky. God is very picky. You look at the tabernacle. You read through the Bible how it talks about how He commands everything in the tabernacle. I want it this way and this way only. Even down to the little shower curtain ring. Or not shower curtain ring, but the curtain rings. I want it made like this. I started thinking about Plane, Trains, and Automobiles with John Candy, the shower ring curtain guy. I mean, he got down to the curtain ring. This is what I want. This is how I want it. I honestly believe the Lord told Noah, He said, listen, I want you to build it just like this. Gave him the measurement. I want it this way. I want it that way. I want it this high. I guarantee if Noah did not build it to God's specs, it wouldn't ever floated. It would have been destroyed. You do it God's way, whether your mind can wrap around it or not. But man, so many times I don't find myself thinking like Noah does. Thinking 120 years? What is this? Rain? Something gonna come from the sky? They never saw rain before. You gotta be kidding me. No. They said he did it 120 years and witnessed why he's doing it. As Brother Tyler talked the other service, or a couple services ago, about how God has His set ways of having church, on how we should conduct ourselves in church, how we should do church. And with the ark, on how you should handle it. There's truth in that. The Lord has us a way on how we should do church, just like He did in His first church. There's no reason in big old fancy sound systems, a light show, taping $1 underneath your seat, coming in here just every Sunday telling, oh, this is what's good about you. This is what's so good about you for just coming here this morning. I'll tell you right now, Joel Osteen ain't nothing but a tool for the devil. That's all he is. That is all he is. The devil has placed him in a position that he can do it. That he's just sitting there feeding these people. Oh, if you want $20, God wants you to have $200. If you want $200, well, God wants you to have $2,000. Now, isn't God good? God said He has it His way. And if God's not in it, you ain't got nothing. I want to think first of all, our first thought. I've only got 2 thoughts this morning, or this afternoon. First, I want us to look at the results of not listening to Him. Look over in Book of Numbers, chapter 20. Numbers chapter 20. Here they're talking about Moses out in the wilderness with the Israelites. Numbers chapter 20, beginning in verse 2 on down through 13. There was no water for the congregation. They gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. People chode with Moses and spake, saying, would God that we had died with our brethren died before the Lord? And why have you brought up the congregation of the Lord into this, that we and our cattle should die there? Wherefore have you made out of Egypt to bring us in unto this evil place? Is it no place of seed, or of figs, or of vines, or pomegranates? Neither is there any water to drink. Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they fell upon their faces, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto them. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, take the rod, and gather thou the assembly together, thou and Aaron thy brother, and speak ye unto the rock before their eyes, and it shall give forth his water. And thou shalt bring forth them water out of the rock, so thou shalt give the congregation and their beasts drink. Moses took the rod from before the Lord as he commanded him. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock. And he said unto them, hear now, ye rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock? Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice, and the water came out abundantly. The congregation drank, and their beasts also. Here we see Moses been traveling along with these Israelites, and he's starting to get a little aggravated with them, starting to get fed up with them. And I can understand. I mean, my temper can get the best of me. But we see that God said, I want you to take the rod that I've given you, and I want you to speak to the rock. I'm going to give the children, I'm going to give them water. I want you to speak to the rock. I don't want you to do nothing else. I want you to speak to it. And what's Moses do? It says he smote the rock twice. He smote it. He disobeyed God. He said, I said, speak to it. Moses disobeyed. In verse 12, it says, and the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, because you believed me not to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. He said, because you disobeyed me, because you did you didn't do what I told you to do. If you would have done what I said, it would have sanctified. I would have got glory and honor that you just did what I said, and all of a sudden this water come gushing out to give you drink, to give you life. But because you didn't, because you disobeyed what I said, you will not enter into the land which I've given them. There are consequences that come with not obeying the Lord, with not doing what he tells us to do. Look over in Exodus chapter 16. Exodus chapter 16. Exodus 16, verse 4. Exodus 16, verse 4. Then said Moses, behold, bread from heaven, for you and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them. I'm going to show them whether they walk in my law or no. Now, look over down to verse 14 through 20. And when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness, lay a small round thing, as small as a hoar frost on the ground. When the children of Israel saw it, they said one to another, it is manna. They wist not what it was. And Moses said unto them, this is the bread which the Lord hath given you to eat. This is the thing which the Lord hath commanded. Gather it up, gather of it every man according to his eating, an omer for every man, according to the number of your persons. Take ye every man for them which are in his tents. And the children of Israel did so, and gathered some and more or less. He said, God has given you a certain amount to get. He said he's going to rain bread down, in the mornings for you. He wants you to gather just what it takes to fill you up and everybody in your tent. Just enough to fill you up. I don't want you gathering more. I don't want you to double it up, because if you do that, you're not trusting me. You're not trusting what I said. You're not doing what I said. He said, gather up just what I have commanded you to give. Verse 17, children of Israel did so, and they gathered some more and some less. And when they did meet it with an omer, he gathered much and had nothing over, and he gathered little and had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating. Moses said, let no man leave it until morning. Eat every bit you got. Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moses, but some of them left of it until morning. They left it until morning. They weren't trusting. They weren't listening to what God said. He said, trust me. Do what I said and follow me what I have to say. He said, don't leave it. Eat every bit of it. I will provide. And we see here that some of them stuck a little bit off to the side. They stuck a little bit off. They weren't trusting God. And look what happened. And it bred worms and it stank. It stunk. It began to mold, and worms started crawling all over it. That's the same way with us. God tells us something, and we start doing it our own way. We start thinking our own way, and it does nothing but stinks and breeds more bad news for us. It just multiplies. Well, God, I know you said I need to do it this way. But man, this way right here, it looks like a shortcut. This looks a little bit safer to me. How many of them shortcuts have ever worked out for y'all? How many times have y'all ever tried to do something that God said, I want you to do it this way, you do it this way? It does not do nothing but end up in disaster. Every time I've done it. Why is that? God said, for whom I love it, when the Lord loveth, he chasteneth. Boy, I've got plenty of whoopings in my day. By my dad and by my Heavenly Father. Tell you what the difference. Dad, he always went right to the backside. Lord knows how to hit you in the right time, at the right place, in the right way. Sometimes it's in the pocketbook, which that seems like that gets me quite a bit. Remember, Dad somebody did a Mexican thinking. Our way, it's just, there's nothing good in our way of thinking unless we follow what God has told us to do. He's given us the Word of God to follow through with how He tells us we should be, how we should do. He'd saved us. Look at Lot's wife. He told him, he said, Lot, I want you to gather up everybody that I told you, and I want you to get out of there. That town is nothing but sin. It's nothing but wickedness. I'm going to bring you out, and I don't want you to look back at what I brought you out of. I don't want you to even be tempted. I want you to look forward to where I'm taking you. And what happened? Lot's wife turned around and looked. And what happened? Immediately turned to a pillar of salt. You know, it doesn't matter how easy or how lightly you tiptoe through mud. You can be in your finest clothes, walking through, I don't want to get mud on me. I'm going to tiptoe through it. But the longer you stay in that mud hole, it will get all over you. You will get some on you. The longer you go, the more you get on you. The longer you stay in there, it's all over you. It will do nothing but consume you until you're just totally taken over by it. I remember me and my cousin, we weren't supposed to be walking through this field. It's right behind our house, and they just plowed it up, and it rained. And we were wanting to go over and plant this cypress tree, and it was from corner to corner. We had to walk just straight through the middle of it. We started walking through there. We was doing good. The longer we was in there, the more we began to sink. The longer we was in there, the farther we got down. until we finally got in there so deep, the only way we could get out was to leave our shoes behind. It had sucked us down in that mud. Sin is the same way. He said, I don't want you to look back at what I saved you from. I want you to look forward. If you dab in it, it will get you. You stay in it, you know, that's not too bad. I think I can keep from it. I'm strong enough. You're not strong enough to stay from anything. You need God. It does not matter if you think you can. The longer you play with sin, it will consume you. God said, don't look back. Look at Adam and Eve. He said, I told you not to eat it. I don't want you to touch it. I don't want you to mess with that tree. And look what happened. The fall of man. I said, doesn't matter what you think. Doesn't matter what I think. God said. We bring so much trouble on ourselves. We bring so much trouble on ourselves by not just listening to God and what He has to say. Look at Jonah, chapter 1. I know we've all heard this. Jonah, chapter 1. Jonah, chapter 1. We all know how the Lord told Jonah, I want you to go to Nineveh. Well, Jonah had a different idea. Jonah had a different idea than what the Lord told him. And we see how it works out for him. And I want you to look at, well, let's just go ahead and just begin in verse 1. Now the word of the Lord came unto Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness has come before me. But Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord, and went down. I want you to notice, look how many times you see down in this chapter. Down to drown a ship going to Tarshish, so he paid the fare thereof, and went down into it to go with them unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. But the Lord sent out a great wind into the sea, and there was a mighty tempest in the sea, so that the ship was like to be broken. Then the mariners were afraid, and cried out every man unto his God, and cast forth the wares that were in the ship into the sea, to lighten it of them. But Jonah was gone down into the sides of the ship, and he lay and was fast asleep. So the shipmates came to him and said unto him, What meanest thou, O sleeper? Arise, call upon thy God, if so be thy God will think upon us, that we perish not. And they said unto every one his fellow, Come and let us cast lots, that we may know for who cause this evil is upon us. So they cast lots, and the lot fell upon Jonah. Then said they unto him, Tell us, we pray thee, for what cause this evil is upon us? What is thine occupation, and whence comest thou? What is thy country? Of what people art thou? And he said unto them, I am a Hebrew, and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, that hath made the sea and the dry land. Then the men were exceedingly afraid, and said unto him, Why hast thou done this? For the men knew that he had fled from the presence of the Lord, because he had told them. Then they said unto him, What shall you do unto thee, that the sea may be calm unto us? For the sea wrought and was tempestuous. And he said unto them, Take me up, cast me forth into the sea, so that the sea shall be calm unto you. For I know that for my sake this great tempest is upon you. Nevertheless, the men rowed hard to bring it to land, but they could not, for the sea wrought and was tempestuous against them. Wherefore they cried unto the Lord, and said, We beseech thee, O Lord, we beseech thee. Let us not perish for this man's life, and lay not upon us innocent blood, for thou, Lord, hast done and pleased thee. So they took up Jonah and cast him forth into the sea, and the sea ceased from a raging. Then the men feared the Lord exceedingly and offered a sacrifice unto the Lord and made vows. Now the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Did you see? Jonah had his own way. Jonah had his own thoughts. I don't want to go to Nineveh. I don't want to, Lord. I want to go to Tarshish. Verse after verse, Jonah just kept going down, down, down. Same way with us. The longer that we do what we want, the longer you stay away from the Lord and go against His will, you're going to do nothing but go down. You will never go up. It doesn't matter if you think you've gotten away from what you're doing now. There may be something in your life right now that you think, you know what? I'm getting away with it. I'm getting by with it. You're not going up. You're going down. And I guarantee you that one day, it may not be now, it may not be tomorrow, but God will judge for not listening to what I have to say. What do you do to your children when they disobey? I tell the girls, I don't want you to do it. They do it anyways, and I spank them. Same way with us. You know, there's people out there that said, oh, you know, if I was a Bible character, I'd probably be David. I'd be Moses. Nah. You know who we're most like in the Bible? We're nothing but the children of Israel. We're like the Israelites. One time the Lord blesses us, He feeds us, and then we start to get thirsty. Oh, what am I going to do? Oh. Lord gives us water. How am I going to get to work today? I ain't got no money. I'm just going to have to drive, and if I run out of gas and you put your coat, your jacket, you stick your hand in your pocket and pull out a $20 bill. Well, where in the world did that come from? The Lord will provide. You have to listen to God. God has a set way for us to live as Christians, to talk, to walk, to act, and to dress. He tells us in the Bible how we should go about all these things. You tell me right now, if somebody was to say, I want you to go out and pick me out a good Baptist family at the mall, could you do it? Could you go out and find, like, look at there, that is a Baptist family right there. By the way they talk, by the way they dress, by the way they talk, they act, you can't hardly do it. You can find Pentecostals, you can find holiness. Where's the Baptist at? We don't want to stand out for the Lord. He said, I want you to stand out. I want you to be separate. Do you believe it? God said, I want you to look like a man. I want you to look like a woman. Look at our kids today. You walk through the mall and you see a young boy and a young girl together. You can't hardly tell the boy from the girl. I just want to go up there and slap the boy because he looks so woman-like, but I'm too afraid his girlfriend will shank me because she looks tougher than he does. The roles of man and woman have switched. God said, you look like a woman, you look like a man. It's an abomination if you don't. Do you believe it? God said it. I heard a preacher one time, he said, I think I was going up to Chicago and I was listening to it on the radio, and it said, I'll tell you right there, you heard it. God said it, I believe it, that settles it. No. It's God said it, that settles it, whether I believe it or not, whether you believe it or not. If God said it, that settles it. You sit there and you chew on that for a while. You go into your Bible and you read, the Lord commands us to talk and to dress like Christians. No wonder we've got so many perverts out there nowadays that are kidnapping little children. Parents letting their children go out there half naked. He said, if you got your thighs showing, you're naked in my sight. You're naked. Husbands, don't get mad at a man if he comes and looks at your woman, if you've got her out there naked. Women, don't get mad at a woman if she's looking at your husband, if he's got his shirt off, walking around. There ain't no business in a man walking around with his shirt off. You are naked. That's plain and simple. If you've got your thighs showing, you're naked. If you got your chest showing, you're naked. And we wonder, how in the world somebody could take a young child and do what they do to it when parents let their children run around. You got little 8-year-olds and 12-year-olds running around here, just have nothing on. Our lifestyle, God told us, God said, this is what I command of you. Are we going to do it? Look over in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 17. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 17. Did I say first? I meant 2 Corinthians. Evan Tyler's probably here. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 17 says, wherefore, come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord. He said, I don't want you looking like the world. I saved you from that mess. I don't want you looking like it. I want you to be separate. I heard Mark Clark Sr. one time preach a message on you got your camouflage on or you got your hunter's orange on. Are you standing out in this world or you got your camouflage on so you can blend in? I don't want to set out. We go up north and Tracy's got her dress on and all the girls are looking prim and proper, and they will just look her over like she is just some kind of freak. They don't understand why she wants to look like a lady. And then sometimes back here at home, I get so aggravated. Somebody will come up and say, are y'all Pentecostal? That aggravates the tar out of me. But you know what? At least they see something. At least they can tell something. That we're striving to try to be like the Lord. You know, that's a good test. We don't know what people are doing. We don't always have to be talking to somebody for somebody to get to see the Lord, like to be a lighthouse. Just in our dress, they can be overhearing us. We're not even talking to them. They can be listening into our conversation. And that could be a blessing. We could just be talking, me and Brother Tyler at a restaurant, be talking about how good the Lord is. We don't know what they're doing over here, but they can listen in on us. The world watches us. He said, we are a peculiar people. The world calls us freaks. They call us weirdos. I'm God's. I'm the Lord's. I want to stand out for Him in more ways than just coming to church. We have a different way that we talk when we're at work. If the Lord recorded your conversations at work and brought here for everybody to listen to right now, what would it be like? Would you want it to be heard? How are you with? The Lord put you where you work at for a reason. Do you not realize that? He put me at Dirks and Portable Buildings for a reason. He put me in the position that I am for a reason. I go out to eat with people for lunch. People that don't go to church, don't pray before they eat. But you know what? They know. They know that I pray before I eat my food. and they will not touch their food until I pray. They've seen it. They know what I'm going to do. They got respect for me. They see it. They know Derik is going to offer thanks before what the Lord's given him. I haven't pushed them to do anything. They've seen me. They've seen what I've done. They see how I live before I eat my food, what I should do. God commands us to live a holy life that's pleasing unto Him. You are not your own person. You are not your own man. You are not your own moment. You are God's. Oh, that we would just trust the Lord in all that we do and do it. So many times we're in a hurry. We just want to see the outcome. We want to go ahead. Lord, just tell me what's going to happen. I want to know before I go into this. That's not faith. That's not stepping out in faith. If the Lord tells you something, you need to step out in faith. But there's so many times that I want to know the outcome before I even step out. Look in Genesis chapter 22. Perfect example of obeying the Lord and what He has to say and not knowing the outcome, but trusting the Lord over it. Genesis 22 and verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham, and He said unto him, Abraham, and he so said, Behold, here am I. He said, Take now thy son, thine only son, Isaac, whom thou lovest, and give thee to the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains, which I will tell of thee. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac and his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went unto the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son. In his hand, they went both of them together. And Isaac spake unto his Abraham his father, and said, My father. He said, Here am I, my son. He said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Abraham said, My son, God. So they went, both of them together. Could you imagine? Fathers or mothers, put yourself in Abraham's position. Could you imagine the one son that you'd prayed for so long? And he says, Abraham, that boy that I give you, that you prayed for, you longed for, I want you to offer him unto me as a burnt offering. He said, I want you to kill him and set him on fire, burn his body up into an offering for me. Could you imagine? Could you imagine that being told to you, to one of your own children? We see Abraham. Every time the Lord called on him, Abraham said, Here am I. Almost to say, Lord, I'm ready. What do you need me to do? What do I need to do? But to continue on, no doubt. I mean, could you imagine? I don't know how long it took them to get there, but could you imagine what was going? It had to be eating. I don't know. To me, I mean, if I know something's coming, it'll just eat at me. My stomach will churn and turn. And I'll just sit there and it'll be in my mind. It'll just almost eat me alive. To know what was fixing to happen. And then to look at your son and say, God will provide. The faith. just to listen to God and say, okay, I'll do what you want me to. I'll do what you have me to. In verse 10, it said, and Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. The angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. I almost believe Abraham, he had to get his attention. I believe he was coming down. Abraham, Abraham. Abraham was going to do it. I believe he was coming down. They knew he meant business. He was coming down. He said, Abraham, stop. Here he goes. He said, here am I. Here am I. He said, lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing that thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thickets by his horns. Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. God will provide. Situations may look tough. Something may look so big in your life, there's no way I can get around it. This is it. This is going to bring me down to my knees. I'm out. Trust God. He said, trust on me. Go out. Do what I said. Do it the way I say it. God will provide. I asked you how many times to blow up in your face. How many times have you done it the way God wants you to, and it blowed up in your face? Anybody? Have you ever done something that God said, and it blew up in your face? Never have. Never have. If I did it my way, sure enough, every time it would. Every time it would. If I go against the Lord and what He says. Now I want us to look quickly. Second thought. The results listening to the voice of God. To listening. We already saw what happens when you don't. The trouble that it causes. And how the Lord will chase you. Maybe not today, not tomorrow, but it will come. The Lord has His set time for you. For your spanking. More or less words. But for when you listen and obey. Exodus with me again, 14. Exodus chapter 14, verse 13. And Moses, here they are, the Egyptians are pursuing them. They see them behind them. They're up to the Red Sea. And here they are doing what they do best. Chewing on their fingernails, stomping at the bits. What are we going to do? Already forgotten who's taking care of them. Moses said unto the people in verse 13, "Ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which He will show to you today. For the Egyptians who you have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. For the Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace." Pretty much, I feel like Moses said, you need to stand still and shut up and watch God work. Just stand still and shut up. God told you what was going to happen. He said, I will deliver you. When Moses come to you, I told him to tell you, I will deliver you. I am. He said, I'm going to deliver you. I'm everything you stand in need of. I will deliver you. Now just stand still and be quiet watch me. Listen to what I have to say and watch. Verse 15, the Lord said unto Moses, Wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel, that they go forward, but lift thou, thou up thy rod, and stretch out thine hand over to the sea, and divide it. The children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. And I will get me honor upon Pharaoh, and upon all his host, upon all his chariots and his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. The angel of God removed and went behind them, and the pillar of the cloud went before their face and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptian and the camp of the Israel, and it was a cloud of darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, so that the one came not near the other all night. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all night, and made dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses and his chariots and his horsemen. It came to pass that in the morning watched the Lord looked the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and the trouble of the host of the Egyptians, and took their chariot wheels, and took off their chariot wheels, that they drave them so heavily. So the Egyptians said, Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its strength when the morning appeared. And the Egyptians fled against it, and the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen and all the host of Pharaoh, that it came unto the sea after them. There remained not as much as one of them. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on the right and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw the great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians. And the people feared the Lord, and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. There may be troubles. There may be trials. I couldn't imagine. No, I've had problems felt like either side of me. And I'm 31 years old, and the Lord allows me to live longer. I'm sure I'll have more things come my way. I don't know. But to have an army of people coming after you, knowing that when they catch you, they're going to slaughter you. No telling how they were going to do it. And then you had nowhere else to run because there was a sea in front of you. It wasn't no lake. It wasn't no creek. I don't believe you could see the other side. Could you imagine? God said, I want you to stretch out your hand, Moses, over that water. He made that sea come up. But could you imagine the faith that it would have to take? I don't even know how far they had to go down. The seas and the oceans, they go down long ways. To think that they had to go down, water up here, and to get out in the middle. I've told Brother Roger and them, to get on a cruise ship, I'm all right till the land goes away. And I get a little iffy. I get a little scared if I can't see land. But could you imagine walking in the midst of the sea on the floor of it? And you can't see land behind you. You can't see land in front of you. But to do nothing but rely on what God said, and that was to walk across it. And he said he walked on dry ground. He didn't make him walk through mud. He said, I'll have you walk on dry ground. No doubt, they might have saw some sharks swim by. Something. I mean, they're way down in there. There ain't no telling. I mean, they might could have. But to trust the Lord and what he said, and to watch him work, and when the last one come across and put his feet on land, God said, all right, Moses, run that rod right back over it. He said, I will cover up your enemies and you will never see them again. You may think there's something in front of you that you can't handle. You might not can, but God can. Do it his way. Be like Abraham. Here am I. How do you want me to do it? I'm willing. However you want me to go about this trouble, I'll do it your way. Not my way, but your way. You believe God has the power this morning? Oh, Pharaoh boy, he had a good run. He had a good run of things for a while, didn't he? He was doing good for himself. Lord even let him go about going and chasing them. Chased them for a good while. But his time come. Don't think that the Lord will stand for somebody bullying his children. And I knew somebody was messing around with my kids. I'm going to go set them straight. I'm going to go set them straight. Lord does the same. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not upon your own understanding. In this life we have people that go to school to be masters of this part, or somebody that knows how to do this the best way. Doctors and lawyers and carpenters and electricians. And, a lawyer don't know how to wire a box up. Doctor probably don't know how to build this. We have people that are special in every little aspect of our life. You have to go to this person for this. You have to go to this person for that. But God, he's got it all. He's got everything that we need that comes our way. You're willing to go sit on a couch and have some lady talk about how your mom beat you? Her tell you, well, has your mother ever beat you? Well, yeah, she did. Well, that's your problem. That's your problem right there. You're willing to go listen to one of them, but you won't take time to talk to God and ask him, show me, Lord, what my problem is. Show me, Lord, how to trust you. The one who spoke the earth's very existence into being. Just spoke it just like that. Didn't even have to snap. He just said it. That took some effort there. Will we listen? Are we willing to listen this evening to what God says? He tells us how to act, how to walk, how to talk, how to live like a Christian. He tells us to trust him in all manner of our life, no matter what. There's nothing too big, nothing too small that he does not mind taking care of. He's willing to do anything that he can. You call upon him. But we may call upon him, but we might not like what we hear. Doesn't matter. He knows. He knows the bill. It may look shorter. It may look easier. You know what? there could have been a bridge for the Israelites to cross just a couple miles down the road if they just would have kept following the creek bed. But it wasn't the way the Lord wanted it. It wasn't how He wanted it to happen. Because when we do it His way, when we trust Him, when we lean not on our own understandings, but do it the way He would have us to do, God gets the honor. God gets the glory out of it. We need to remember that God settled it. God said it, and that settles it. God's children have a listening problem. And I get on to my children for it. Same thing. I get on to them all the time. So Derik, you talk about kids a lot in your lessons. That's what we identify the most with. We act like nothing but children to God most of the time. Say, don't do that, and you do it anyways. Will we listen this morning? Will we go out and listen? Trust Him and obey. There's no other way. Our lives could be so much better, so much simpler. I'm not saying that troubles and trials still won't come your way, but you will be able, just like Peter, the storms are raging. He jumped right out of the boat. The seas were still going crazy, waves, winds blowing, but God allowed him to walk on top of it. If we would trust Him, listen to what He has to say, and don't doubt Him, and just do it. Brother Brady?
Everyone stand, turn to page 297.